When integrating AI into a sales workflow, the most common mistake is asking the wrong question. If you ask, "Can AI do this?" you invite the kind of generic, automated outreach that prospects have learned to ignore. The professional move is to ask, which part of this should the tool touch and which part requires me? Large language models operate by processing patterns in language at a scale no human can match. However, the model does not understand the stakes of the deal or the person on the other end of the screen. It manages the linguistic heavy lifting, while you provide the strategic intent. An algorithm can draft a summary, but it cannot hear the hesitation in a prospect's voice during a discovery call. It can generate text, but it cannot show up for a client over 6 months to build a history of presence. It lacks the internal values to navigate ethical ambiguity, and it cannot take the final risk of asking for a commitment. Because of these limits, reading emotional subtext, building trust, exercising judgment, and closing remain your structural responsibilities. This division of labor takes different shapes depending on your company's architecture. On the standard track, you choose individual tools based on their specific strengths for depth or volume. On the enterprise track, the work happens within a rigid architecture, where your data routes through internal intelligence faults and specialized persona layers. Mastery in this role is not a technical coding challenge, it is a mapping challenge. Success depends on knowing exactly where the algorithm's calculation ends and your professional judgment begins. Once you have mapped the boundary, you have to execute. Prompt engineering is a communication skill, functionally identical to briefing a human colleague who needs context to do their job well. When a model produces a poor output, the standard reaction is to rephrase the request. This rarely works because the problem is usually a lack of context, not a lack of word choice. If the output is bad, the solution is to add the missing information the tool needs to be accurate. The general prompt uses a 7-element structure: role, purpose, task, context, format, tone, and examples. For an accounting pitch, we fill the structure. Role is a senior BDR. Context is an accounting firm losing revenue. Task is a follow-up brief. Naming these parameters inside the framework ensures the output is tailored to the specific business pain. Applying this rigid communication structure replaces the uncertainty of a blank text box with a repeatable production process. The result is a business asset that aligns with your requirements on the first draft. High-volume research requires the research prompt. It uses 4 elements: source scope, synthesis goal, output format, and depth instruction. In an enterprise stack, this routes into an internal intelligence vault, querying proprietary data to surface exclusive insights. For direct outreach, you use the prospecting prompt. This framework requires a mandatory prerequisite: pre-prompt research. The tool cannot invent a buyer's specific pain points. You must find that evidence yourself and feed it into the prompt. A critical part of this framework is tone calibration. You select your tool based on the destination of the message. You might use one model for external, cross-platform messages, while using a specialized internal persona layer for work that stays within your company's workspace. Pause the video and use the prospecting prompt: prospect profile, pain hypothesis, desired outcome, and tone calibration to draft a prompt targeting a legal managing partner. A precise prompt identifies the managing partner by role and hypothesizes that client friction is being caused by slow document turnaround times. Including these details creates a message that feels like a professional observation, not a generic template. These specialized frameworks only produce results when you provide the researched context. The tool depends entirely on the quality of the information you provide. Using these frameworks, you have produced a highly customized, pipeline-ready email that addresses the prospect's actual operational friction. Before you send that email, you must recognize the principle of AI output ownership. The moment you hit send, the legal, relational, and ethical responsibility for that message belongs entirely to you. The tool processed the language, but you are the author of the communication. This matrix aligns our entire methodology. It maps the general, research, and prospecting frameworks against the flexible tools of a standard kit and the designated routing layers of an enterprise stack. Mastery comes down to 4 operational disciplines: mapping the boundaries of your role, planning your prompts before you type, adding context instead of rephrasing, and owning every message you send. These disciplines allow a BDR to operate a scalable engine of precise contextual outreach. In a modern sales pipeline, managing this collaboration effectively is the defining professional skill.